The Brexit reset. So, is it good for Britain or is it good for Brexit? Has Keir Starmer saved Brexit by easing the Brexit friction, thereby making the British public ease into living with Brexit? Or will Brexit dissatisfaction continue to build? Only time will tell. Last week, I was invited onto Sky News to talk about the impact on British farming of Keir Starmer's Brexit reset. And it was a debate with another farmer, Ollie Harrison, who they say voted Brexit. I didn't know what Ollie's voting preferences in the referendum were until this was announced on Sky Television. But an interesting debate in that it shows perhaps to people why some farmers believed in Brexit, because they thought that we would be able to tailor policy specifically for British agriculture. The main problem with that was always that agriculture in Britain was more protected by European policymakers because the relationship in Europe on the mainland between farming and politics is much, much stronger. In the centralised system that we have, which is largely an elective dictatorship centralised from London, there is very little representation or concern around farming issues.
Welcome back. Let's get more now on the UK-EU deal and look at the views from the farming sector. I'm joined now by the cereal farmer, Ollie Harrison, who's a supporter of Brexit, and from North Wiltshire, the chair of Save British Farming, Liz Webster, who was originally against Brexit. Quick snapshots first, and we'll get into the details. Ollie, your take on this deal?
Anything that makes trade between the two countries, us and them, easy, I'm all for. But what I'm worried about is some of the regulation creeping back in that we used to have, because that kind of shackled us. If you imagine we're an island, we're quite a different continent with a different climate to them. And if we start having to have some of the regulation, like at the moment we've got a bit of a drought and we hopefully could have some smart breeding techniques. Well, I think we're going to have them taken away from us again now we've rejoined.
Liz, your snapshot take?
Just to respond to that, the answer to that was always being part of the club so we could negotiate and move things along together. Living within Europe and next to the continent means that we're always going to be impacted by what they do. It's kind of like being a massive cruise liner and we've decided to get into a little raft next to it and hope that we can survive it. The confidence that I've got for food security and food supply in aligning to EU regulations means that it stops an absolute tsunami of substandard food coming in here and undercutting us even more. So it's good in some ways. But at the moment, we decided to get divorced from Europe and we've been single. And Keir Starmer's got three deals on the horizon here, three proposals, one from America, one from India, and now this one from the EU. And because of the standards, there could be some incompatibility issues because assurance to abide by EU regulations means we can't accept hormone-fed beef and chlorinated chicken and all the rest of it that comes with that. So I am really against being absolutely completely and utterly deluged with substandard imports because it's bad for our food security, it's bad for our public health, and it's an absolute lose-lose for Britain because if you lose food security, anyone can hold you to ransom for food.
So, Ollie, just to pick up on that, I mean, when the US deal was announced, I heard a lot of farmers, I don't know what your view was, saying, we don't want to lower our standards. I mean, in that regards, partnering with the EU and matching high food standards is a good thing for you or not?
Yeah, obviously we have the highest standards in the world, but the devil will be in the detail. It always is, and until it shakes out and everyone gets their head around it. But the US deal, they sort of sorted out the beef job and the chicken job, but then sold the wheat farmers down the river with the ethanol deal. So wheat is used to produce ethanol in the UK. It's the floor in our market. It's what your E10 is in your fuel. It's 10% of it's made of ethanol. Well, now that can come in made of cheap energy from the US. And the cereal sector that's already under a lot of pressure, especially with this drought, is now pretty knackered.
In terms of what details you'll be looking out for on this UK-EU deal, what are you looking out for?
The stuff around the smart breeding. So, I was a little bit in or out. Do we stay or do we go, 9 years ago, whatever it was? Well, the thing that made me realise was, hold on a second, we've got different climatic conditions. We lead the world in smart breeding. I mean, some people call it GM, but there's a cleverer way of doing it now. It's more like accelerated breeding. But we were held back and couldn't do that because we were aligned with the EU. And it now looks like we are going to be back there again.
Liz, I'm interested in your take on this because it sounds like you're very vehemently against Brexit in the first place. Are you then welcoming this step that was taken yesterday by Keir Starmer and the government, or is it hard for you to be positive in any way, shape or form?
Look, as I've said, an assurance that we're not going to allow substandard, really awful food in here is a huge relief. But the whole disappointment about the not understanding why we're better off to be in the club than out of the club still exists now. It's pointless as having great breeding systems if we can't sell it to our biggest market. And geography means that these things about thinking we can sell it to the other side of the world are for the birds. America doesn't really want to buy
I get that, Liz, but we're not debating the vote in 2016. Do you welcome the deal yesterday or not?
I welcome the deal in that it's a small step towards improving things, but it's not enough. It doesn't go far enough. We are also disadvantaged in our home market because European farmers are subsidised and food subsidies have been removed from us. And even within the UK itself, we've got unfairness within the United Kingdom with Northern Ireland farmers, Scottish farmers and Welsh farmers being better off than us as a direct result of Brexit. So there's still a lot of problems, but it's a welcome news to me that we're not going to be allowing the substandard food to come in and totally destroy our food security.
Very quick final question, we're out of time, to each of you. Liz first, snapshot what you think farmers' thoughts are towards this government, all included.
I think they're probably mixed in that there's a lot to understand and get your head around. Those that decided that Brexit was a good idea because we had problems here in this country because of supermarkets undercutting us, which was a British decision to get rid of the Resale Price Maintenance Act in 1964. And so we've been crushed down, whereas our European counterparts haven't, because they've had more of legislation which has stopped supermarkets doing that. And so I think getting your head around the detail is really, really hard. We've never come to terms with the fact that we're a small island with a large population and we don't rule the world anymore, and we're better off to be part of the European project than out of it.
Ollie, quick sum up of farmers towards the government?
I think there's a lot of disappointment because there's quite a lot of policy come out that's had unintended consequences because it's not been thought out. And if they did understand agriculture a little bit more, I think we could have been in a better place. But at the moment, we seem to be going in the wrong direction.
Ollie, Liz, thank you both so much for joining us this morning. Very much appreciated.
It is taking a long time for people to work out why Brexit is only ever going to keep damaging Britain. The Brexit reset has helped to ease, or is potentially going to help to ease, the Brexit trade barriers and make Brexit a little less annoying. But really, in truth, what that would do is potentially stop opposition to Brexit building, because now it is building faster. The good thing about the reset is that it means that our food supply will be easier, but as I mentioned in the interview with Sky, it's bad for British farming because European farmers are subsidised and we are not. Since Brexit happened, meat prices have gone up, so lamb and beef, but not because of Brexit. It is actually more to do with the supply chains after COVID, and there's been a global shortage of livestock, sheep and beef in particular, for various reasons, whether it's climate change, disease, and global demand surging in Asia. And as a result, those prices have really rocketed. But what people don't see is that input prices have also rocketed at about the same rate, 38-39% since 2019. Beef prices, same, gone up somewhere around 38-39%. And that's great, but if we were still in the European Union, we would also still have BPS subsidies, which we've lost. And so actually we are a lot worse off than our European counterparts. And that means that as more food comes in from the EU, as they release the trade barriers, then our food is going to be competing with their food here and in their countries, but we're going to be more expensive. And we've also been hit with this inheritance tax, which also hits our profits, because people will have to start planning for that, especially if they've got elder relatives. So all in all, it is good for our food supply and food security. It's bad for British agriculture. This will culminate in more factory farming, because the only way British farmers will be able to compete is by intensifying production. And that is bad for animal welfare, bad for standards, and bad for the environment.